In this corner of Butte Town, the shelves empty fast.
They normally start off in that corner, work their way across, and by the time their bags are filled, they've got at least 3 good meals, if not more.
And it's clearly popular. Yeah. Kirvin's pantry has provided food security to thousands of families. But last year, the man who helps others needed help himself. He'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer.
I'd started to struggle with difficulties a few months before that, and unfortunately just kept ignoring it. I was struggling to hold on to my wee when I wanted to go. I'd be on my way home, for example. I'd get to my house, I'd want to put my padlock on my bike, and all of a sudden I felt like I wanted to go to the toilet. And within seconds, it became urgent, very urgent.
Kirvin's prostate cancer was caught just in time. It's the most common cancer in Welsh men, but for black men, the risk is doubled. Yet the UK's official advisory body recently recommended against routine screening for most high-risk groups.
They're checking for diabetes, they're checking for your sugar levels, they're checking for all these other things. But the one thing that's really, stifling us and ending our lives prematurely is prostate cancer. And I'm just bemused that the government are dragging their heels.
It partly comes down to fears about overdiagnosis, treating slow-growing cancers that might never have caused harm. But charities say targeted testing is now safer than ever.
So the ideal screening test would detect aggressive prostate cancer, the so-called tiger, and not detect the less aggressive prostate cancer, the pussycats, okay, which aren't a threat to men's life. And that is the big challenge. We don't have that test yet. But what has changed is what comes afterwards. So having an MRI scan, having a safer form of prostate biopsy has made the argument for screening those men at high risk much stronger.
The Welsh Government says it will consider the final recommendations when they're published. But early diagnosis allowed Kirvin to get back to giving back. So he's determined to see other men given the same chance.
Oh, Kirvin's story there, and Katie is with me now in the studio. All that said, how likely is it that we will actually see a screening programme rolled out in Wales?
Well, the UK government is expected to make its decision on a screening programme later this month. But because health is devolved, the Welsh government could choose to do something entirely different. But the national recommendations are based on evidence, and testing can find prostate cancer a decade or more before any issues might even come up. And if it's diagnosed, it's more likely to be treated. But treatment can have negative side effects such as urinary incontinence. But there is some research to suggest that overdiagnosis only really affects men over 70, and those in favour of screening would argue that the benefits far outweigh the drawbacks. Now, there are currently calls for other cancer screening programmes in Wales. The previous Welsh Government was working on one for lung cancer, but of course we have a new Welsh Government, and that will still be deciding where it wants to spend its money. But Plaid Cymru did pledge to prioritise prevention and introduce self-screening for some cancers, and charities say increasing testing wouldn't necessarily be costly. But in the meantime, they want men to be aware of the symptoms, which include changes to the way they urinate, erectile dysfunction and blood in their urine. And if they do have any of those symptoms, the first step is to call the GP.
Otherwise, we wait and see what the new government will do. Katie, thank you very much indeed.